So while watching your video, it reminded me of something I had been meaning to say on YouTube for quite a while. Um, First of all, let me say that I'm also anti-theist, which is a little bit stronger than atheist, being uh, against other religions and speaking out against other religions. I think it's very important. Certainly, religions have got no qualms about speaking in favor of their God and speaking against atheism and, godless secularism and all that other crap. They've got no qualms about that. I feel as though in order to be fair, we need to be able to speak back. And I've got no qualms about speaking against religions, as I'm sure you don't either. But one of the things that strike me is I'm a pragmatist, and being a pragmatist, there are mental models, there are mental structures that we need to have in place, abstractions for how we understand the world and how it works. And these are collectively a belief system. Now, granted, someone who's got religious beliefs does not require evidence in order to support their belief system. I would say that's being anti-theist, that's the requirement for evidence to support our beliefs is certainly a lot more diligent, okay? And that's a good thing. But it's still a belief system, and when it comes down to the core belief, what is the nature of existence? I mean, I think there's still something that people need to have in order to, as some positive thing they can attribute existence to. And if it's not God, well, what is it? Somehow in existence, we're getting something for nothing. How do you explain that? The classical argument with atheism is that, well, we get existence, something out of nothing. If we say that everything came out of God, then we're just deferring the question to God. Well, if reality came from God, well, where did God come from? We're still getting something for nothing. You just cut out the middleman, and that's atheism. But I think the conclusion I've come to, and I think a lot of people have come to, a lot of scientists have come to, and we'll see whether or not you disagree with this or not, is that reality is rooted in mathematics. And the more they analyze the laws of physics and the fact that science is becoming more and more a mathematically based language, that we understand reality to the extent that we can express it in mathematical terms. I think that reality is basically a mathematical function, a relationship between different dimensions. That's the same way Einstein described the relationship between space and time. There are more dimensions involved. In fact, they're looking at models of the universe, the grand unified theory. They've got 11 dimensions, okay, and they're describing the relationships between these 11 different dimensions. Now, I can't claim to understand all of that, all right, but I think what it points to is the idea that reality, existence, is something that's rooted in mathematics, and it exists simply because it's possible. That mathematics is an abstraction that comes out of nowhere, all right, that doesn't need to have any sort of physical base. You think about, perfect circle or perfect square. It doesn't exist in a physical form, okay? But the mathematics provides the substrate that gives us this reality and our interactions with it, because we're trapped with it. It's a physical reality. But maybe it's, I'm not sure what you would call it. Maybe it's Neoplatonism or something. I don't have a name for it. I wish I did, but I think more and more that science and sort of the advanced physics is pointing to this idea that reality is rooted in mathematics, that you don't need a machine, you don't need a God, you don't need anything. It doesn't necessarily preclude any of these existing, but if these other things exist, they have to come from somewhere else too. Okay, I think ultimately it points to existence being rooted in mathematics. So anyways, that's what I believe, all right? And it's not a negative statement. It's not that I'm saying there's no God. It's not that, I could prove there's no God. I certainly have proof that I've got more than enough evidence to suggest that the gods that most people believe in are false, right? But to make a blanket claim like there is no God, I wouldn't claim something as strong as that. I would claim that if there was a God, then that God has to come from somewhere. I think it points to something that's rooted in mathematics. Somehow we're getting something for nothing. And I think it's because mathematics being an abstraction and being something that simply exists because it's possible. So anyway, hopefully this wasn't confusing, or I don't know, we'll see. And maybe you've got something to say on it, or I don't know. But anyways, I just thought I would throw that out there and see what other people think. So thanks for watching. Bye.